Hi, good evening, everybody. I, Ojas Sampat, on behalf of Chippendale Preschool, welcome you all here today for this webinar, whereby we have Amrita Rajpal with us. So, welcome, Amrita. It's an honor to have you here today with us. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and being here to share some insight on this topic, like how to communicate with children during early years. I'm sure all the parents are going to gain a lot after they leave from here. So thank you so much, and I would like ask you to please take over. You can unmute yourself. Yeah.
Hello everybody, how are you? Can I see everyone's face? This is such a nice meeting over here that we can have everybody's face visible. And usually I'm just talking to a screen, but this is making me feel so good that I can see other people. Is it possible to get your videos on? Okay, I can see Nikita's video and I can see some more videos. Hello everyone. Oh, wonderful.
Thank you, parents. Request everybody to please put their videos on. Thank you.
Absolutely wonderful. Okay, so let me start by introducing myself. So, as I just told you, I'm Amrita Rajpal. I've been teaching for 22 years, but I've been learning my whole life. And that's why I have a company, and that company's name is Edu Learn Grow. So, my company provides content and curriculum to preschools, and Chippendale is one of the preschools that is using our content and curriculum. We do teacher development workshops, we do parent workshops, and we also help schools in their expansion plans. So besides all this, I'm also a sports nutritionist. I'm the territory head of the Early Childhood Association. I'm the founder of EduLearn Grow, and I'm also the founder of the ABCD show. So wonderful to be with all of you today. And today's topic is how do you communicate with children in the early years? So such an interesting topic. We haven't said how do you talk to children in the early years, but how do you communicate with children? So there's a lot of difference between talking and communicating. And communication can be verbal and non-verbal. So let's look at how we communicate with children in the early years.
Sorry to interrupt, Amrita. Your voice is breaking.
I want to do an activity. Put it down on the chat once you've thought of it. Keeping the chat open so I can see what are the characteristics of the ideal child according to you. What do you think an ideal child should be like? What characteristics does he or she need to have to be ideal? To be perfect? Write in the chat so I know. Okay. Pradeep Kaur is saying obeying, respecting, caring, and naughty. Interactive. Lakshmi says to be active and to obey. Okay. What do the others have to say? So Navisha, Dheeraj, Gayatri, Meloni, everybody right? So I know what you want your child to be like? Vinita? You want them to respect elders, okay? Caring. Okay, so I'm getting everybody saying obey. You know, one thing which has come out 3-4 times is obey. You want your child to be obedient. All right. Vinita says active, bubbly, happy, and gross values of life. Okay, wonderful. So basically what we're getting is we want our child to be happy. We want our child to be joyful. We want our child to be caring, loving, respectful, have all these values, right? If you're looking at your child, you also want your child to be balanced. You want your child to have initiative. You want your child to have the correct values. You want him to have a well-rounded personality. He should have independent thought. He should be able to think for himself, make the right choices. So all these are the things that you want for your child, correct? And if you had all of this, you would be the happiest parent in the world, I'm sure. Right? So that's exactly what's not caring for his things, responsible. So all these are the things that we want for our children. Now, I want to explain to you a little bit about your child, because your child has the potential to be anything that you want your child to be, or anything rather that your child wants to be. Not what you want your child to be, but what your child wants to be. Your child has that potential. So, everyone has a mobile phone now. So every person today has a mobile phone. Now, when you open your mobile phone, you see so many applications. We have a GPS, we have YouTube, we have, what is it? If you want to do shopping, you can do shopping. If you want to look at emails, you can look at 10,000 emails. You can look at messages. You can look at WhatsApp. You can connect to someone living in America or in any part of the world. So your mobile is a smart mobile. That's why it's called a smartphone. Correct? So we have a smartphone. Do you know this mobile of yours is not as clever as even one brain cell of your child? You know, your child has 1 million brain cells. Not 1 million brain cells. Million brain cells. And this mobile phone, which we think is so smart, it can make us do so many things. It can show me the way, it can make me shop, it can get me connected, it can show me YouTube, I can learn cooking, I can learn everything. Everything in this is not as smart as one of those brain cells of your child. So your child is so smart. That is the potential, that is the capacity of your child. We are not talking about anything which is ordinary. Your child is a miracle. Your child is extraordinary. And what do we do when we talk to someone extraordinary? So suppose we look at the Prime Minister of India. How would we talk to him? Just think for 1 second. Is that the way that you talk to your child? How you would talk to possibly even a stranger? But we don't talk like that to our children. Can you all hear me now? Okay. So brain research says that when your child is, up to the child is 5 years old, 90% of the brain has developed. That means your child is shaping his whole identity in the first 5 years of his life. 5 to 7 years of the life, which we look at is the preschool age. That is the time when your child is shaping his whole identity. And this child is becoming what he's going to become when he becomes big. And all those qualities you were talking about, no? Active, bubbly, happy, caring, loving, respectful, all those qualities have to be there when he's at this age. Otherwise, he's going to find it very difficult when he becomes big to acquire these qualities. Now, the next thing that I'm going to be telling you, that all behavior has meaning. So when your child, when you want to say, when I'm just saying obey all the time, when your child is not obeying you and he is not behaving the way you want him to behave, his behavior is talking and communicating to you. So it's not only how you communicate with your child, but it's also how your child communicates with you. And many times what happens to us is we think about what we tell the child, but we are not listening to what the child is telling us. How is this child communicating? How are we responding to this communication? So when I go out and I meet you at some different place, how would you talk to me? Would I listen to you, or if I just looked away or did not respond, how would you feel? So similarly, your child also is responding to how you are behaving with your child. So all behavior has a message. All that happens in your early life, the third tip is what I'm telling you, is all that happens in your early life has an impact on your later life. So everything that happens in the first few years of your life will impact you for your full life, and it's going to last a lifetime. And I have a lot of brain research, I have a lot of facts which is going to validate everything. So it's not because I am saying it that you have to listen to me, but because someone has researched, created a theory, has decided on knowing the facts, and then told us this, that I'm going to be able to tell you this. Right? So because we've realized that the brain is developing in the first 5 years of the life, all behavior has meaning. And the third thing was what? Everything that happens in your life, in your early years, has an impact throughout your life. Because of all these things, we have to be very careful about how we talk or communicate with the child, so that this child grows up to be everything that we want the child to be. So let's look at a theory. I don't want to speak without substance, because then after that you're going to tell me you said it, but I'm not saying it. I'm backing it up with the theory. And the theorist is Erik Erikson, and he was he was a psychosocial developmental activist. Okay. So he studied child psychoanalysis, and he got the psychosocial theory. Now this theory says that man goes through 8 stages, and all these 8 stages have an impact on this life. We'll go through the first 3 stages together, because we don't want to talk about things which are not relevant to the early years. So when a child is 0 to 1 years old, he's going through 2 conflicting things. One is trust and one is mistrust. At this time, the child knows that he has to trust people. And how does he learn how to trust? Only when he gets a lot of warmth, care, love from the people around him will he have belief that I can trust the world. So there are 2 ways that a child learns to trust. Okay? First part is that I believe that I have faith in myself. If I tell anybody to come or I can communicate with other people, they will respond. So how does a child communicate? Anyone knows? Anyone wants to write? How does a child communicate? So a child communicates by gurgling, fussing, you know, and you're going to see a child makes faces, he starts laughing, and then when you see the child, you also laugh. So the child is doing ooh, and you're also making the same sounds back again. Suppose the child says ah, then you're also doing the same thing back again. And a child knows that I can communicate, I'm getting a response. I'm kicking my legs, someone else is laughing over there. You know, I'm doing some action, there is a response from the other side. And someone is smiling at me, someone is talking to me. And if I'm uncomfortable and I make a noise, you know, like a cry or something, someone will come, change me, take care of me. If I'm hungry, someone will come and take care of me. Now, all these things are giving messages this way and getting messages from parents. I remember when my son was small, you know, the elders in my family used to tell me, if he's crying, let him cry, it's okay. He'll settle down in 5 minutes. But that's not right. Because here, now the child is understanding that I am communicating that I want to see somebody, you know, for whatever reason. Maybe I'm hungry, maybe I'm, you know, wet and I need a change of a diaper. Or maybe I just want to know somebody else is there. But when he gets no response and there is no communication back again, then what happens to this child? This child starts screaming louder because now I cannot communicate and no one is listening to me. So now I will start shouting. And when I start shouting, then people will say that, my God, how much he's yelling, let's go. And this becomes a habit. And when the child grows big, he realizes no one is going to listen to me till I shout. And this becomes his communication. Because now he doesn't trust people to come when he wants them to come. So I think very, very important that when a child is communicating to you, you respond to the communication. Make sure that you are allowing the child to know that you love this child. He's so special. He's everything you wanted. Right? And how will he know unless you communicate? Unless you smile, unless you sing songs, unless you hold your child to yourself, unless you make him feel loved, unless you talk to him or her, whatever, and unless you respond when the child wants you. I think that is the best way to communicate. You know, your child is seeing your face and he's understanding his whole world from that face of yours. What are your eyes telling him? Are they happy to see him? Are they excited? Are they twinkling? Is your face smiling? Are you excited to be with your child? He's getting all these messages from you. Yes, Yami has written imitation. Yami, the child will start imitating after 8 months. When the child, till the child is 8 months, the child is not yet signifying who is who in the house. That's why the child goes so easily to everyone. After 8 months, the child understands that these people are the ones who really take care of me. I need to go to them. That's when they really want to know that this person is mine, or they start creating attachments. But if you don't take care in that first year, that child is going to become very, very untrustworthy in life. He is not going to have faith in the world or in people around him. And you have to take the right communication by doing all the things that we said. You know, holding, hugging, cooing, talking, spending time, singing, being responsive when the child is calling. And that will be your communication to your child. So now let's go on to the next stage. So your next stage is autonomy versus shame and doubt. So there are two things that are happening now again over here. What is happening is that the child is becoming independent. So you know your 2 to 3 years is basically the time the child goes to school. He is learning that he is an independent human being. He is separate from other people. He is creating his own identity. And when you create your own identity, what do you want to do? You want basically for everybody else to understand that I am different. I have a choice. So this is the time they've realized they have different choices in food. I like this, I don't like this. Before 1 year, before the child was 2 years old, he would more or less eat, listen. And that's why they call these the terrible twos, na? Because they're throwing tantrums. I can see some faces which are saying yes. Yeah, so they are throwing tantrums. Now they've got this choice. Now this is mine. Now I want to do this. I want to wear these clothes. I don't want to go there. I want to go to the park. I want to carry the tray. I want to carry the glass. I want to keep this back. They've still not attained full autonomy. So sometimes they want to do everything. Sometimes they want you to do everything for them. It's very confusing for a mother that yesterday he wanted to wear his own clothes, wants to tie his own shoelace, he wants to put his own zip. Today he doesn't want to do anything. You do everything for me. So the child is oscillating because he's still developing autonomy. And if he doesn't get faith in his own abilities now, at this point, he will start doubting his own abilities. So very important how you communicate to a child. So when a child tells you, I want to carry this, what is the first response? No, you're going to drop it. Now the child, in his mind, what is happening? I'm not capable. So I don't think I'm good enough to carry anything or do anything. And that's a communication you have given your child. That I'm not smart enough, I'm not capable enough, and I can't do this. So as I mentioned in my introduction, that I love to travel. So I was traveling in one of these different cities, and I saw there was this parent, and it was foreign country, and this child was about 2 years old, and the parent said the parent was eating an ice cream cone. Now what is going to happen in an ice cream cone? The ice cream is going to melt, and invariably if a child holds a cone, then that is going to melt. It's going to spoil the child's face, spoil the child's clothes. Everything is going to become messy. So this child wanted to eat that ice cream cone. So that child said, child told the parent, give it to me. So the parent sat down and told the child, this is ice cream, and ice cream is going to melt and it's going to become like a juice and it's going to come down that cone. If it comes down that cone, it may fall on your face, it may fall on your dress. Are you okay with that? We can wipe it with a tissue, but are you okay with that? And the child said, yes. And the child held the cone. There was ice cream all over the child's hand. It was on the face. It was on the shirt. And the mother kept wiping it with a tissue. I was just thinking of myself as a mother. I'm not judging anybody else, but I'm thinking of myself as a mother. I would never have given that cone to my child. I would have said, no way. You're going to make such a mess. everything's going to become dirty. I'm not giving it to you. But what happened was this child realized that this is going to happen. And the mother also realized that this child needs the independence to make a choice. And the mother was also very smart. After a little bit, she also started biting from the cone and making it smaller and smaller so that, you know, the child didn't have so much falling. But she gave the child the choice of having it. That doesn't mean that you give your child lots of choices, but you give your child smart choices. You remove 2 clothes and tell your child which one will you have, which one will you wear. So you're giving your child confidence to be able to choose and make a decision between 2 things. If you go and open the cupboard and say, now remove what you want, then you're asking for trouble. Now another thing is, we ask our children, what do you want to eat? And then they say, we want to eat pizza. Then you say, Mama, pizza ke liye we don't have pizza bread at home. Then they say, make mango ice cream. We don't have mangoes, we don't have ice cream, we don't have nothing. If you have to say no for everything, then why are you asking your child? What kind of communication is this? If you're communicating with your child and you're asking your child something, then give your child 1 or 2 choices of something that you can make. Will you like to eat puri bhaji, or would you like to have paratha? Both those things are things that are available at home and I can make it for you. So give your child that kind of communication which is clear, which is not confusing for the child, which is allowing him to make a choice, allowing him to make a decision about his life, giving him confidence to say something for himself. Right? So those are the things. I also want to tell you about an incident that happened yesterday. A friend of mine called me telling me her sister-in-law has 2 children. And those 2 children are 3 years and 2 years. So this 3-year-old child has decided to give the 2-year-old child a haircut. So he has found a scissor somewhere and he started cutting the hair of the 2-year-old child. While he was cutting that hair, he's hurt the 2-year-old child. 2-year-old child has started bleeding. His 2-year-old brother has started bleeding. And this child has started laughing because he found it so funny that he was able to remove blood from this child's thing and they had to run to the hospital and whatever. And they have shouted so much at that child. Now tell me, has anyone shouted at the parent for keeping that scissor handy like that where the child could reach it? But all that life, that child is going to remember that my mother shouted at me for hurting my younger brother. And that relationship may get strained because this has an impact on your full life. If a child in the first year learns to trust, he will trust for his full life. If he doesn't learn to trust, he will go on to the second stage. But after that, he may not be too trusting. It may take a long time for him to get somebody's trust. Similarly, here, if a child doesn't get confidence in being autonomous and being independent, if you do everything for the child and you give these unclear messages to the child that you're not capable, you're not confident, then your child is again going to grow up like that, doubting his own abilities. Have you seen people, every time you give them an instruction, they tell you that same thing back like they've not understood? So tell somebody you go down and do this and either they will do it wrong or they will ask you back, sure na? Why? Because they're not confident in themselves that this is what I'm supposed to do. And we have to build that confidence with our communication. All right. Another thing I want to tell you is, this is the time a child has to learn to accept himself. All of us have to learn to accept ourselves, however we are. We are dark, we are thin, we are short, we are fat, we are fair, we are long hair, short hair, however we are, We have to accept ourselves. Where does a child look first to get acceptance? Is the parent and the teacher. These are the caregivers. If you tell the child or give a message to the child, a communication to the child that you are not okay, you are not the kind of child I want, you are not a good child, then that child is going to get a wrong message. Because then the child is not accepted by you, he will not be able to be accepting himself. And then socially, social acceptance becomes even more difficult. Let's look at the third step. The third step is initiative. So now when a child is about 4 to 5 years old, he is learning to be initiative. He's supposed to take his initiative. You see now at this point, children learn a lot of self-help skills. You can teach them to clean their cupboard, keep things back in the right place. They want to do all this. They want to find a purpose. They want to be, useful, productive. And for us, it's very important to give them that purpose. Also give them that purpose in how we talk to them. Are you a useful person or are you a useless person? I'm sure you must not have finished your homework. What kind of communication is that? Is it talking to a useful person or a useless person? So very important how you make the child feel. So very, very important that this child should not feel that I am useless. So give, in fact, that child little things for the child to do. Set the table, put the books back, pick up your things. Because now the child is going to understand that I am useful. I am a productive person. I am a person who can achieve something. I'm a person who is liked, a person who is accepted by society. So these are the things that you can do to make the child feel good. And now finally, I want to tell you about, how the brain functions. So every time a communication goes from here to there, we have a watchman in our brain. That watchman is called the amygdala. All of us have a watchman in our building. Our brain also has a watchman. So this watchman is the amygdala. And now the amygdala is over here. So if there's any sort of information which is coming, first the amygdala is going to see it. And then he passes it on to the primitive brain or the reptilian brain. What job is that of the reptilian brain? Reptilian brain's job is survival. Am I safe? That is the question he's going to ask. So if it's not a safe thing, the reptilian brain will not pass on the information. The second brain which is over there is the emotional brain. Am I loved? Am I feeling safe? Am I feeling loved? If that is feeling good, I'm accepted, then the information goes to the executive brain. The executive brain is in charge of learning. So we want the child to learn anything, then we need to have sure that the child feels safe and the child feels loved. So for example, I'm going to give you, if you talk and compare your children, or compare your child to somebody else, is your child going to feel loved? See the neighbor's boy, how nicely he puts his toys back. You two don't do anything. Your toys are all over the place. Why can't you learn from him? And we start right when the child is 1 year old. We don't even wait for him to grow older. It starts from there, the comparison. He did this, she did this. That one dresses by himself, he eats by himself, he does this, she does this. So much comparison. What is the communication which is going? I'm not good enough is the communication. Very, very important that you make the child feel good by himself, for himself. And then after that, we can communicate further things. So what can you do over here? Please don't compare. Don't leave your child out. You have all these small instances when a child is 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and all this impacts much later. A child feels left out now, but when the child is 40, 50 years old also, the child will feel left out. You know, I was in a panel yesterday, and one of the panelists was sharing. She must be a 52 or 53-year-old lady, and she was sharing that her mother told her that she had to stop working because she was born. And she's saying, till now I can't get over it. Why did my mother tell me that? My full life I felt guilty. Now you have chosen to have your children. So why are you telling your children these things? If you knew this was your responsibility to look after your child, you work, you don't work, what you do is your choice. It's got nothing to do with your child. So see the messages that are coming across. Also, one person's sister was smarter than than her. And all her life, everyone compared her. You know, she failed in class just because she felt she was so useless. It was nothing about to do with your child's abilities. It's about how you're making your child feel. Are you making your child feel good? Because you have chosen to have your child. And you already know the potential of your child. You know that your child is capable of anything and everything. So I'm happy to take questions. Does anyone have any questions? What would you all want to know about communication? So till I get, can't comparison activate positive attitude in a child? Samir, it's not comparing them. It's an example. When you're comparing me to somebody else, I know that I am falling short. And how can you compare? If your child turned around and told you, you know what, Papa, why didn't you become Prime Minister? You know, you should have become the Prime Minister. You should have become Mukesh Ambani. I would have had such a lovely childhood. How would you feel about it? It doesn't work like that, no? It's not anything positive at all when you hear something like that. You are the best that you can be. And you are the best that you can become. Let's look at that. You got 4 marks less. Why did you get those 4 marks less? Oh, I just read this lovely message a few days back and someone sent me. And the child said, I got 27 out of 30. And the father said, oh, let's look at the 3 that you did not get. And the child looked back and said, let's look at the 27 I got first. So you get 27 rights and there's no acknowledgement. But 3 things you get wrong and there is a talk about it. First, see the 27 right. And then let's talk about the 3 that went wrong. And comparison is never positive. Comparison can never be positive. You have to just look at your child. Your child is unique and see what works for your child. What motivates them most then? So every child is unique now. Motivation is not a reward. So if you give me a mobile phone because I get so many marks, then I'm working for the mobile phone. I'm not working because I am capable of getting so many marks and that is my responsibility. Where is my sense of self-achievement when I say that? I need to have a sense of self-achievement, and that sense of self-achievement will make me do everything. You know, Your child is seeing himself in your eyes. And in your eyes, if he feels he's the best, even if he fails, he will get up and walk again. But if he feels in your eyes he is useless, he will not want to get up. Why should I get those marks? I don't want to become a big man. I don't want to be whatever. That is what you want for me. What do I want to do? I want to play. Okay, let's play something which is making sense. Let's play together. Sameer is saying, to say, is there a way by which comparison can lead to a stimulation of good behavior? Never. I don't think comparison can lead to anything. I think you cannot compare your child to anyone else. Your child is unique. Your child is special. Your child is one of a kind. There's nobody who looks like him exactly. There is nobody who behaves like him exactly. There's nobody who can run like him exactly. He is so unique. Imagine just how special he is. And you have to discover what is so special about your child. He's not good at A, but he may be good at B. And you have to discover that. Pull up the strengths of your child. How do you open up an introvert child? Yes, Nikki. So, the worst thing we do know with our children is somebody comes and then you say hello to uncle. The child cannot speak because the child is anyway a shy child. So what you need to do is you have to sit and talk to your child separately and say, you know what, when people come to our house, you have to smile and greet them. And why are we smiling and greeting them? Not because it has to be done, because we are so happy you took time to come to our house. And everyone who comes to our house is a guest. And we like having guests in our house. You don't have to talk to them, but you have to greet them. And once your child understands that, your child will start greeting guests because of the context of greeting. Not because he has to do it. This is the context. I'm so happy to have you home. So if I come over here on this webinar also and I say, hello everyone, how are you? I'm so happy to be here. So I'm so happy. But I can just come over and say, okay, I'm here now, I have to talk to you. Tell me what to say. And you get that? No, but the context is clear. That I am here for you. So get your child understanding the context first. Yes, Yasmi, hug is enough to encourage your child. Your child is only seeing himself through you. You are the mirror to the child. Children are committing suicides. Children are getting into depression. Children have got anxiety. Children cannot communicate with their parents. All this is happening when the child is 15, 20, in those teenage years. But everything has happened now when the child is in these early years. And that is shaping those later years. I don't trust my parents. I can't talk to them. I don't feel comfortable. They don't accept me the way I am. I am not good enough. My brother is the smart guy. All the time they're criticizing me. Even though his guests think I'm quite useless. I can't even say hello. So I think very important to understand how your child is feeling and take care of that. Is always being available for them means we are overprotecting. You cannot always be available for anyone. And it's not fair. You have a life also, right? And you owe it to yourself. And your child has to learn to be independent, Kritika. You cannot be there all the time. What is our job as parents? To have our children independent, to live their life. But being available means I am there for you no matter what. Doesn't mean I am sitting with you all the time. Your child needs to be open enough with you, clear enough with you, free enough with you to be able to come and say, I have a problem. I cheated in the test. That it should not have been done, but I did it. And that's the time you guide the child. That yes, you did something wrong. Now what can we do to make it right? Not you are a cheater, you are a bad boy. Did I ever teach you this? Is saying lies something good? Giving two slaps? That doesn't work. Being okay to have your child come and tell you this and do what it takes to make the wrong right. Because all of us have done wrong things. Huh? That mother who left that scissor over there did something very wrong. She may have slapped that child 5 times, but then who was there to slap her? We never see what wrongs that we do, and we're doing it at this age when we have children. So I think it's a very important thing to be kind also to your child. We're kind to others. We need to be kind to our children. We need to talk politely. They're always, I read a message here which someone said that they're imitating you. Yes, they're imitating you. What you teach them with your words is not half as important as what they will learn by imitating you. You know, in this lockdown, I'm so appreciative to my mother. I have grown up children, but I am so appreciative to my mother. I used to see her, cleaning the house, and I used to see how she used to clean the corners, and there were no cobwebs, and she used to do everything, and we only watched. And I'm so particular about my house being like that. And that was only because of what I saw with my mother doing. So I do the same. In Jammu and Kashmir, small kids also suicide by playing PUBG. Yeah. What is all this? Why are they doing all this? Why are they playing all these games? Why aren't they sitting and playing with their parents? Why don't you all have a family time with a dinner time together? Why not talk? Now, you know what happens when a child talks, he's not obeying. He has a voice. But listen, what is he saying? Is this child saying something which is making sense? Is the child asking a question? Just because the child doesn't have the experience you have or has got an intellect which has, already grown to the proportion that you have grown because of your experience and your knowledge, doesn't mean the child cannot understand. We are not even talking about children. I have a dog in my house. If I look at my dog and I shout at my dog, why did you do that? My dog slinks under the table. The dog can understand, the child can understand so much better. The tone of the voice, the stature, the way you are looking, the way you are standing, the look on your face, the smile, they understand everything. There's a whole thing about body language. Sometimes you don't say anything. You just stare at your child and look upset. And your child's brain will shut down in 20 minutes. That is a fact. Have you seen Tare Zameen Par? The teacher was talking and talking and talking and shouting at the child, and the child was not understanding anything. He had totally zoned out. Why has the child zoned out? Because he cannot take so much stress. We have to give our child stress because the child has to learn to deal with stress. Let him learn to deal with a good stress. A good stress is a child going to school, learning new things, meeting new people, going to new places, trying new food, deciding what to wear. All these are stressful because it's causing your brain to work. Let it be a good stress. You think life becomes very easy for children once they go to school? You comparing your child to everyone else. Your child is being compared by his peers to other people. The teacher is also comparing the child. This boy came first in class, this one came last in class. You think the child is not understanding? He didn't do well enough, he did well enough. What the communication means. If at home a child is not feeling accepted and loved, he will not be able to cope with everything else that is happening outside. Very important. Always talk about the behavior of the child. do not talk about the child being bad or good or labeling the child. So, you did this. I didn't like that you cut your sister's hair. That was not something that had to be done. We need to go to the salon to do that. So that was not good what you did. Not that you are not good. You are a silly boy or you are a silly girl. No. So your communication has to be kind. It has to be positive. It has to be loving. Because you got a child into this world only because you wanted to love the child, no? So in the present scenario, children don't want to sit for online classes. What should be done to create interest? I think, you know what, all of us, do you think teachers want to sit in the online class? Don't they want to sit in the class and teach? But giving into a child for everything is not love. So when you communicate, you need to sit and say, what is it that you don't like? You don't like to sit in front of the screen. You don't like the song the teacher is singing. What is it that you don't want to do? What would you rather be doing if you didn't want to do this? Try to understand that. Because obviously either the child may be playing something else, doing something else, that's why he doesn't want to leave that and do this. So try to understand what it is. And if the child has something else they want to do, then tell their child, after this class, I'm going to give you some time to do that. Or if the child doesn't want to wake up early or dress up, why would the child not want to do that? Maybe the child is not sleeping enough. And that's why he doesn't want to wake up and sit in front of a class. Who would not want to sit in front of a class and sit and sing songs, be with your friends, wear your clothes, be fresh? Who would not want to do that? Either there is something else which the child is doing, which the child likes more, or the child is not ready. We get children ready like this in 5 minutes. You get up, wash your face, sit. Child needs to orient himself. He needs to become stable. He needs to be awake 1 hour before, at least 1.5 hours to the class. He needs to go to the toilet properly. He needs to have his breakfast nicely. He's not eaten properly. He's not slept properly. And then he has to go and sit in front of a class. How will he like the class? He's feeling tired. He's feeling sleepy. So I think it's better to understand why first. There are 2 things. One is listening and another thing is talking. So even listening to the unsaid communication of your child, why is he doing that? Listen for what the child is not saying. Are there anything else that anyone wants to ask me? So I'll also tell you 1 or 2 more things which are coming in my mind. There are things you remember the first time of most things. First time you went on a holiday, or first experiences you will remember. First time you went to somebody else's house. After that you go many times, it becomes different. You'll also remember the last time. So if the first time is a nice experience, the child will want to do it the next time. So if you make it uncomfortable for your child to do an online class or anything, the first time is a bad experience. Make your child sit. Then your child doesn't have a nice experience, doesn't want to do the same thing the next time. So try to make the first time a good experience. Don't just go and get your child and make him sit over there. Explain to your child, we can't go to school. We are going to be sitting, all our teachers are going to come on a screen. We can see all your friends on the screen. We are going to be doing this. Make it exciting, make it fun. And then your child will find it fun. But you can't get your child over there and expect him to adjust, because even for us to come on this kind of platform is not easy for us, because we have also not adjusted to this. Anything else anyone wants to ask? I've had so much fun talking to all of you. It's been so nice. I'm so happy I could see some of the faces.
Thank you so much, Amrita. It was so very well explained that it's all clear and nobody has any questions. You were so sweet while you explained everything with such an ease that it could just register so well in all the parents and our mind. Thank you so much for sharing so much of insight and small things how we can work upon, which most of us usually end up ignoring maybe. So it was really indeed very helpful, I guess, for our parents as well, as they are all sharing their feedback that it was very helpful and very well explained to them. Thank you so much for being here. It was such a nice
It
experience.
was totally my pleasure. Thank you so much, all of you in the, who are attending, all the attendees. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for being here. And just love your children. I think that's why you got them into the world, to love them.
Absolutely.
Just do that. That's the only thing you need to do. That's the only communication. That's it. Bye-bye. It was lovely being with all of you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Otis. Bye,
Bye.
Rupa.
Bye, Amrita. Thank you. Bye bye. Have a nice weekend. Thank you, parents. Stay home, stay
Bye-bye.